Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Interesting. Interesting.
So this is what, episode
Something.
10
I
of,
haven't been paying that much attention to it.
I think so.
Yeah.
You're the one doing the numbering.
Yeah. I still gotta put up 9. So. I'm supposed to be doing that tonight. It's exported. It's on a flash drive.
Oh, okay. It's ready to go.
Gotta go
Because your
flash
computer
drive.
that does your editing doesn't do your uploading.
Correct.
Yes.
So old.
This streamlined
Computer's
YouTube
now 12
process.
Years, 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Still
like-
old. Handle HD.
It's like how we would do all of the editing for football games on that Mac Mini, because that's what the hard drive was connected to. Oh, man. I haven't looked at any of those in a long time.
So one of you guys had the idea to review TLJ.
And you couldn't even be bothered to watch it.
Nope, didn't watch it at all.
I mean, I don't know.
I've seen it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Wow. A whole 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3
That might
times
match my
more
2 or 3
than-
times.
It might be more than Noah.
Interesting. Such interesting, horrible thoughts directed at The Last Jedi, which is a masterpiece.
It is something.
Curtis, your thoughts?
Wait a second.
I
Who
did-
are we?
Who cares?
I did see a funny meme. It was the picture of Rey when I bypassed the compressor. Except it said,
That's The Force Awakens.
yeah, except I bypassed the expectations. And it said it was,
The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So that's Curtis at the far end.
I, Curtis.
I'm Noah.
Yeah, that's Noah. And this is Ryan.
Oh, I was just going to ignore him.
Oh.
Because it's his birthday.
Yeah.
It was the meta joke.
I'm old.
You're not old.
I had a student who messaged me today, said happy birthday, old timer. And I was like, well, my bones are aching even more now. Thank you.
You're not old.
Alrighty.
Curtis isn't even old.
So we are continuing our journey into the Star Wars Trek. Yes.
If we
The Dark Wars
did we
Trek.
Yes.
did we go there before? Like, I know we talked about the Mandalorian, but that episode was lost to oblivion, so
Yeah.
we technically haven't gone there yet, have we?
We did with the Clone Wars.
Oh, right. I forgot about
season
that
7.
one.
So we have officially continued.
Right. See, my memory's crap.
So, Star Wars The Last Jedi, not to be confused with the Star Wars Legends novel with the same name,
The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi.
Right.
Which is a completely different story about a completely different Last Jedi.
Of course.
Yes. I actually did read that one when it...
Right
When
around
the-
the time the movie came out.
Yeah, right around when it came
Back
out.
2017, right? Is that
Yeah.
December? November?
It was released December 15th.
Look at me.
Yeah. So I think probably in like October, September.
Somewhere
I bought
in
the book
there.
somewhere.
I remember you getting the book, and you're like, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, it's not.
No. Yeah, it was not.
No.
It's... To be honest, I'm not quite sure which story was better out of the two.
Interesting.
It's
So you're saying the book is also
not bad.
strange.
It's just in the words of the director and writer Rian Johnson, it subverted expectations.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which was apparently his full intent from the beginning. He wanted to subvert expectations and create a movie that could simultaneously anger fans, but also have people say it was a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think he accomplished that. Yeah. It also had a 7.0 out of 10 on IMDb.
Ryan, why don't you tell me about these numerous reviews you read?
Oh man, I took. I'm not even gonna read them because it was one after the other, pretty much the same thing over and over again. Just angry nerds, all yelling about how
angry nerds. Interesting that you
Everything.
describe these disgruntled fans in such a demeaning way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you saying that they have no right to be angry?
No. I think.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Ryan hates all.
He likes
Star
The Last Jedi. You should be sure to tell him how bad of a person
No.
he is on his birthday. Oh, wait, this won't be released till a week later. So,
Yeah.
a week after his birthday, so it's
No.
fine. Tell him whatever you want.
I think the movie, if you think about it from just a film aspect,
Right.
not from a Star Wars story.
Uh-huh.
From a film aspect, it's not bad.
No.
It's entertaining at parts, gets a little annoying here and there, but overall, it's an interesting idea for the story.
Right.
From a Star Wars story standpoint of view,
Certain.
yes.
A certain point of view.
Yes.
I see.
It's they broke as many rules as possible when coming up with the story, breaking as many rules for character motivations from established characters that we've known.
They
a long
destroyed Luke Skywalker, is what you're
Essentially.
getting at.
Yes.
That is true.
That's
true.
In fact, so I did something.
He did a thing.
I did a thing.
You thinged.
My coworker, I was talking to him a little bit about the movie, and he had a list of grievances.
A list of grievances.
It's 4 things. More just questions.
Short list.
More just questions.
Questions.
But he did send them to me, and I think it's our first write-in questions and concerns for the show.
Questions that need answers.
So I don't know
Quote
if
Gandalf.
we should we just get into the story first before we start voicing opinions about it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think basic overview. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
No. Well, my first note is actually about the opening crawl. Because this movie takes place 5 minutes after The Force Awakens. Which means this crawl can't tell you anything new. It literally can't. It puts in there that, the First Order reigns over the galaxy, which, how did that happen? It's 5 minutes after. Their base just got blown up. Their fleet's already in position?
Well, they did destroy a whole bunch of New Republic.
They destroyed 5 planets and a fleet or something.
Yeah, but
Including the New Republic homeworld, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Whatever.
Yeah. So I suppose that it could mean that they now have dominance over it since they destroyed their government.
Destroying a government doesn't give you dominance over.
No. But it definitely is a power move.
I'm going to be slightly topical. And maybe I shouldn't, but in the Middle East, we destabilized the United States, destabilized a bunch of governments. We didn't suddenly have control over those territories or those people. So how does the First Order already have control? This movie has, even underlying, going beyond just the subversion of expectations, this movie has a bunch of very interesting structural grievances, or I have grievances with its structural work, and it's just it had me constantly going, huh? And it's very strange.
Okay.
But it also presents some interesting ideas.
Yes. So we move from there just to we literally pick up right after the destruction of Starkiller Base.
Right.
And
the
they're-
First Order has decided to retaliate.
Yeah.
They gathered a fleet, and they're like, let's go blow up the Resistance base. Because in The Force Awakens, they were like, we've tracked them to the wherever planet. I don't remember.
Oh, really?
Yes, that happened. I didn't watch The Force Awakens. I just remembered that offhand. How terrible is that?
I enjoyed The Force Awakens much more than I enjoyed The Last Jedi.
I would generally agree. So, yeah, the fleet's showing up, and they're like, the Resistance is evacuating. Let's blow them up. And then Poe does stuff.
Yep. Poe decides to do, in his mind, hero stuff.
Hero stuff.
Hero stuff.
Yeah.
Empire stuff.
A lot of Empire stuff here.
What we need is a hero.
Huh?
I saw some little blip online that they're casting for live action Hercules, maybe a movie or something, or some production. And that just reminded me of the line.
Okay.
What you need, or what we need, is a hero. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
We have intruders.
We're being brigaded.
We need to up.
This is your birthday
Birthday song. It isn't very long.
Yay!
Thank you.
So for everybody out there on the internet,
I doubt this is being picked up very well.
it's
We're recording into microphones.
so for everybody out there in the internet.
Look at his little sliver of a face. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Oh, here. Okay.
There we go. For
Disruption.
everybody out there in the internet, it's Ryan's birthday
We
today,
already established this.
and I'm his dad here to embarrass him, and his mom is back there too.
Not on camera
thank you.
because she fears being on camera. Yet she wants to start her own YouTube channel.
Okay, so carry on. Just pretend we're not here.
Okay.
Here.
Who's here?
Who is here?
All right. I don't remember where we were. All right.
Star Wars Trek.
Uh-huh.
Star Trek Wars.
Yes.
Your comments aren't making this any easier.
The Finn's doing hero stuff.
All right. They bring in, Poe's doing hero
yeah.
stuff. They
Finn.
bring in the dreadnought, and they're like, let's target the base instead of the fleet, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Which, as is shown throughout the movie, only reinforces the fact that the First Order is led by Hux, who is incompetent in this movie specifically.
Yeah. He wasn't as much in The Force Awakens.
No. But in this movie, he is both incompetent and the whipping boy,
Yes.
as is shown time and again, which I think is supposed to be levity. Is it supposed to be funny? I honestly don't know. Like, it happens, and I'm like, so
I remember chuckling in the theater.
So are they just trying to show that the bad guys are completely incompetent? In which case, how have they taken over the galaxy? And how has the Resistance not beaten them?
Don't know.
I'm just asking questions.
Do you think that the writers and people knew at this point, when they were writing the script, that he was going to be the spy,
No.
the traitor?
No.
Traitor.
Rian Johnson put no thought into what was coming after this. He wanted to tell his story. And he said, damn the expense.
Yep.
Yep.
Sounds like his great movie, Knives Out.
Which doesn't deal with established characters in any way.
Right.
Therefore, he's not stepping on anyone's toes.
Right.
Also, if you want to watch an interesting video about Knives Out, but it also talks about some of The Force Awakens and some issues with it. There's a YouTube channel called The Closer Look. And they do a video called How to Do a Plot Twist - Knives Out. So he starts by talking about the previous movie for Rian Johnson, which was The Last Jedi, and his latest one has now been Knives Out. And this cool kind of a back and forth between the two movies and his thought process in creating a story. So, yeah, it's interesting for you viewers out there. So Poe is doing hero stuff. He is shooting up the dreadnought, destroying turrets and whatnot.
Right.
And
So there's an exchange between him and Leia, right in there, and she's like, "I don't like this plan of yours," but she's okay with it because they're going through with it. She doesn't order him to stop.
right.
This is important later when she demotes him for succeeding in his plan because the bombers were fueled and ready to go, which are slow and required other ships to protect them, moving beyond the fact that they should be using Y-wings. Let's focus on what's going on here. His plan was to use these bombers to distract or disable part of the First Order fleet so that their escape fleet could go away, because they didn't know the dreadnought was going to be there necessarily.
Right.
Right. So then why does Leia demote him later when that was clearly the plan and she doesn't order him to stop at any point?
I have another gripe about Leia and Holdo, but I'll bring that up later.
Yes, there's very many things to bring up later. Also, there's BB-8 is the squirrel from Ice Age.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he plugs up all the holes.
Yeah,
All
it's
the
really
electric
stupid.
things in the
Do you remember
ship.
that, Curtis? When you watched this movie 3 years ago?
And then he uses... I
He uses
I
his
actually
head?
thought that was kind of funny, watching that now.
Well, I watched it and I went, that's not how circuitry works.
No, but it was definitely funny.
Okay. Does that mean it was worth it, Ryan?
I didn't say that. I just thought it was entertaining.
There's a lot of like weird comedic elements in here, and at the time, I think people attributed that to like Marvel spillover, but I think it's just Rian Johnson wanting to be different from Star Wars, which typically doesn't deal with comedy. There are funny things that happen, but that's usually just like situational.
Han Solo was a quipper.
Quip is not the same as comedy.
True.
It can
But
be
he also ran, right into a gigantic room full of stormtroopers.
and then
Going,
turned around and
"Ah!" And then he got really scared and he
that's
ran away.
situational humor. That's not BB-8 plugging up the Ice Age holes.
I mean, it was a situation. I don't know. So we get past that.
Oh, you
BB-8
forgot about the Yo Mama joke in there, Ryan.
Mama joke.
Yeah.
What?
He calls up Hux, and he's doing that to
that.
stall for time. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, Poe's plan isn't clear, and it doesn't really make sense in all of its aspects. But he calls up, and he's like, "I'm waiting for General Hugs." Once again, showing that Hux is incompetent in this movie because he just keeps being dragged along by Poe. And then he says something about, I have something to tell him about his mother or something, and that's the end of the call.
Right.
Yeah. I told you, I'm just asking questions.
Yes.
Questions.
The Dreadnought, you go to the bridge and you see the other evil guy on the Dreadnought.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's red lighting, and it has
yes.
like a submarine viewer. I was like,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. I assume that's a further World War II reference because the bombers are a World War II reference, like outright. So is that like a submarine thing? I don't know. Like I said, I just have questions. I don't know.
So what's the What's the difference between a dreadnought class, whatever, and other?
It's
class?
bigger and it has bigger guns.
Oh.
I think is the distinction because
Okay.
its big cannon blows up the rebel base on the planet in like a shot, and then they turn to aim it at the escape fleet. Why you wouldn't aim at the escape fleet first? This has been brought up by hundreds of other people, but it still doesn't make sense to me. You shoot the fleet, the people on the planet are stuck there.
Right.
Gets rid of the plot.
Showing that the enemies are incompetent, which makes you wonder how they're succeeding.
Right.
I don't know. I just don't know.
And in greater numbers.
And in greater numbers. But how do they still have so many numbers if their big base just blew up?
They all went. There were more people in the unknown regions. I remember that.
All right, fine. So the bombers come in. They're really slow and they blow up. They arm the bombs before they're over their target, which doesn't make sense. You think they could build a mechanism to arm them as they're being dropped. That would make sense to me. That way they don't get shot once and completely explode.
And blow up all the other ones.
And blow up all the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Curtis remembers this, and it's been 3 years. So, I don't know. What? Okay, sure.
Ooh, and then we have some of our first ever Star Wars extreme slow motion.
Oh, with her trying to get the thingamajig to
Right.
open or to drop the bombs. Paige, I think was the name.
I think so.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna go with that. And she's reaching for the thing to drop the bombs, and I'm like, just take another step up, you'll get it. But it's dramatic. And it's this long, drawn-out, dramatic death for a character that we've never met before, and we'll never meet again because she dies immediately after.
Yep.
Good job. I like I said, it's just strange.
It is strange.
You bring that up, and there is
Oh, boy.
a question from my buddy Charles, and he asked a similar question to what
Okay.
you just said. Why does this movie feel like it has to introduce new characters in order to just kill them or have them never come back? Like Laura Dern's character or Benicio del Toro's character. So, thank you for that question, Charles.
Because
Slash
Rian Johnson likes random named characters that do stuff? I really don't know. It befuddles me, some of the things. But yeah, they blow up the dreadnought, and then Poe's like hightail it back, and him and like 6 other ships board the big ship and quickly land, and they're like, zoom. And then Finn wakes up.
Right.
Curtis, tell me about Finn waking up. How does your memory remember this scene?
This is more of that comedy that you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Where he's like, and there's just water everywhere. Or back to
Whatever.
whatever.
Bacta.
And what, then Poe sees him randomly, just kind of,
Yeah.
da-dee-da-dee-da, what's
Waltzing
going
around.
on?
No one else stopped him, questioned him. He's perfectly fine, all right. He took a major lightsaber wound, and it's been about 10 minutes after The Force Awakens. And he's right as rain.
Yep.
Cool.
And Poe had enough time to sew up his jacket.
Oh, right. Like I said, there's so many just, like, the fundamental structural problems of this movie come from the fact that it's like, you didn't wait any time, and The Force Awakens left you in such an awkward position. Because The Force Awakens never explains why Luke's out on an island on a planet in the middle of nowhere.
Right. It was a
Or-
great cliffhanger. Mm-hmm.
Right.
A classic J.J. Abrams cliffhanger.
Yes.
As classic.
No answers, because he doesn't know. That's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
And he left it to someone else. Or why there was a map that led straight to him that this movie ignores. I don't know. No one ever knows, because
They kind of explain that in the in
Don't-
the Battlefront 2
No,
campaign.
not even close.
Yeah.
That
Because he
campaign
finds-
is bad, and we don't talk about it.
But there is the level where Luke goes to the Emperor's whatever storehouse and he finds the compass. That
Okay.
compass is what's supposed to have led him to this planet. Oh. Yes.
So why does this compass exist if there's just an Imperial record that shows how to get there?
I don't think there is any Imperial record. It was
There is.
There
because
is?
R2 had part of it. Which he must have gotten from an Imperial database. Because otherwise, why would he have the rest of the map?
I don't know.
Unless, of course, this is just another mystery box that has no fucking answer.
Who knows?
All right, but Finn's walking around being a goof for the sake of goofiness.
Mm-hmm.
But his first line is, "Where's Rey?" Which is, I think, a good through line from The Force Awakens. He was more concerned about Rey and her well-being than anyone else. Regardless of whether or not Finn's character is actually well developed, that's at least consistent. Ryan,
Yeah.
I believe you have problems with Finn's character.
No.
Then I'm thinking
know.
of someone else.
Yeah. I'm okay. The idea of a stormtrooper that is turned is definitely something interesting. So,
So then I was thinking about someone else who had grievances with Finn as a character.
Finn.
Sorry. Garlic bread. Very delicious. So we ask where's Rey, and then it's a nice transition of where's Rey, and then you go right to Rey, where she's at.
And the ultimate subverting expectation
Ultimate
scene.
subversion of expectations. Luke Skywalker looks at his lightsaber, which he lost alongside a hand, and just tosses it over his shoulder as if it meant nothing to him at all. Interesting.
in a recent Star Wars comic, he does talk about how he no longer feels any need for that lightsaber.
Oh, look, retcons.
Yes.
Ryan, we're not discussing retcons. In fact, I want to keep discussion about the rise of Skywalker out of this as much as possible. I want to look at this movie as it stood in 2017. Which means all these comics and all this other bullshit that just excuses this movie, we don't count.
Okay. So lightsaber goes, whoop, bye-bye.
He walks away, and she chases after him. She's like, Master Skywalker, something. We need your help. Your sister sent me.
Go away.
Go away. Yes.
And then a porg almost
Kills itself with a lightsaber. I really
stepping on it.
talk about comedy. That would have been funny.
Well, we did have a kind of comedy moment with the porgs because Chewbacca was cooking one, and then he almost ate one
He should have
in front
eaten
of
it.
the other
He
ones.
should have eaten it. Then Rey and Chewie barge into Luke's home. Chewie destroys the door,
Yes.
Yes.
just smashes it in. And Luke's like, Chewie, what are you doing here? And then he says something, and then Rey translates for the audience because Luke Skywalker would have known what Chewie was saying. I don't know. That was just a moment where I was like, she doesn't need to say that. And they do it a couple of times through the movie, like BB-8 just said. It's like, huh?
I think Luke. I think Luke plays. He's like, I know what he said or something.
No.
Grumpy Luke, doesn't he?
No.
Oh, I could have sworn he does.
Ryan, Curtis, I watched this movie today.
Today.
If only you had to.
Nope.
Nope. That's probably smarter.
It's a long movie. Longer than I remembered.
It's only like 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. It feels longer than Endgame or Infinity War did. Mm-hmm. And those are both 3-hour movies, 3.5-hour movies. This movie just feels long because it just drags stuff out. And there's an entire act that's pointless. Mm-hmm. We'll get to Canto Bight. And once again, Rey's like, we need your help. please come help us. And I note that down because she does this quite a bit where she's calling Luke Skywalker to action, call to action, which is get your characters out the door to do stuff. And he never does, really, until the end. So they just spend an entire movie sitting on this island doing basically nothing.
Training.
Does she get trained?
Well, isn't one of the deleted scenes in the movie another training session that we never saw?
Right, but does that count? It's not in the movie.
That's a good point. I don't know.
It's in the novel.
Oh, if it's in the novel.
When was the novel released?
I'm not sure. Shortly after.
So she got all 3 lessons instead of just 2. Oh boy.
And even that third lesson, it was more like Luke tells her that there were like raiders coming to attack the priest people, the monks. And
Space
so
monks.
she runs
Spunks.
after them with her lightsaber and is like going to try to defend them.
She breaks down the door and then they're just having a party.
Yeah, they're just having a party.
That's the lesson.
Yeah, it's like
A Jedi shouldn't go and rush out to action or something.
yeah.
Was basically it. I don't know.
Which I guess is kind of a lesson because it's kind of a good lesson because Luke did that same thing during Empire.
And it worked out. Overall. He does the same thing in return.
Yeah. I suppose. I don't know.
Luke asks, where's Han? Seeing Chewbacca and no Han Solo.
Dun dun dun.
Because Chewie wouldn't go anywhere without Han. That's why he's traveling with Rey now. Okay. Moving on. We don't get to see Luke's reaction to Han's death at Ben's hand, at Kylo Ren's hand. And you'd think that learning such things would push Luke to go and do something, because that's who Luke Skywalker is. He would feel responsible and would therefore go and do something. I'm just at, like, you agree, right? Like, that would make sense.
From the idea of Luke Skywalker's character that we were already like accustomed with, yes. But in Rian Johnson, it's
But even,
subvert the expectation.
like, just basics of storytelling would be like, oh, he would feel guilty and would feel the want to try and right his wrongs, right? Like, that makes sense?
You would think.
Okay, I'm not crazy. Then we transition to the throne room, Snoke's throne room, right?
Snoke.
And he's talking to Kylo Ren about stuff. I don't remember. Ryan, what happened?
I think Hux had revealed his plan to Snoke, saying
Oh, right.
about the
Forgot
tracking
that
them
bit,
through
where he's the
hyperspace or
whipping
whatever.
boy.
So Snoke is all giddy about that, and Hux is like, I did well. And he walks off.
Right, because he's an incompetent baboon in this movie.
Yeah. And
Then he dies.
Yeah. Then they have the conversation, which is essentially like, Snoke is saying that he can sense the conflict within Ben Solo even
Right.
after killing his father, how it nearly broke him.
And he's like, take the mask off.
Yeah,
And-
quit being a silly boy and
Right. And I thought, just watching this, that like the choice to get rid of the mask should have been Kylo Ren's alone to show his own like uneasing or maybe his shifting position.
I don't know.
I don't know. He goes down the elevator and smashes the mask in the elevator. And then he gets out, and there's 2 random people standing there, and he tells them to prepare my ship. I'm like, those guys were just waiting for the elevator. They're not hangar deck people. That's comedy. Transition back to Luke and Rey, and she's like just finishing the whole recounting of events of The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, that's why we need you to come and help. And he's like, you think what? I'm going to go grab a laser sword and take on the whole First Order?
Haha.
That is what he would do.
Subversion.
He would totally do it.
He would
been
do
great.
that.
They could have made the movie an hour and a half long. Luke just chopping through people.
I mean, he doesn't need to do that. He just needs to, like, kill 3 people. I don't know. It's weird. He says the line, do you think I came to, quote, the most unfindable place in the galaxy for no reason? There's literally a map, dude. It showed, it had a big red line showing people how to get there.
Right, but R2 had the only copy of it, that section that led exactly to it. Luckily, R2 was on a sleep timer.
Wouldn't
He woke up just...
the First Order would theoretically have some of the Imperial records, yes? You would think?
You might think, but maybe...
And they were going after the piece of the map that BB-8 had, which would make you think that they did have that other part because they were trying to find Luke Skywalker.
That's a fair assessment, but...
Just saying, there's a map. Then we get the slice of hermit life, where he goes around and he gets his green milk.
Yep.
Curtis shakes his head. That shows comedy.
Then he gets a fish.
The most impractical fishing of all time. That's what I had a problem with. The green milk was like, whatever. He has a 50-foot tall pole, like fucking pole with a hook mounted on the end of it. And he pole vaults and then he fish. How did he get that fish back up?
Well, use the Force.
He was disconnected from the Force at this point in the movie.
He can still feel the Force around him.
He uses one of those manatee green milk things to get the fish for him.
But he stabbed it with
he hands it to them.
And they stab it, and then they gave it back.
Yeah.
It is impractical. It is strange. But you have to think he's probably been there for 15 years or something.
So walk down to the beach.
No.
Or you're telling me he took that pole and just took all the way up, got the fish off, and then just dropped the pole back down?
They had to get back across the the little inlet.
This is the stuff I have a problem with. The impracticality of fishing with a 50-foot pole vault pole. All right. Where was I?
Is this when they get back to the fleet and it's all this discussion about what they're going to do next or whatever? Poe is demoted.
Well, my notes are talking about when Rey goes and looks at the Jedi texts, and I might have skipped over a part of the movie.
Maybe. Okay, Jedi texts, yeah.
They largely go unused, even though she takes them with her. And then they look at one in the next movie, which was Luke's journal, which he put with the sacred Jedi texts, question mark?
I don't know.
We're getting in the Rise of Skywalker, which I said we wouldn't do, but here we are. And then, after all this time, he asks, "Who are you?" And I said something you should have asked 20 minutes ago. Because I feel like someone who walks up to you with your own lightsaber and is asking for your help from Leia, you would beg the question, who is this person? She came here with Chewbacca.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just have
Strange.
questions. And she's like, I'm Rey from nowhere, which I'll come back to that later.
Wouldn't it be great if we could phone Rian Johnson in
Yes, it would
right
be.
now? Ask him a couple of questions.
I have so many questions, Rian Johnson. Please let me talk to you for like 4 hours.
Oh boy.
I'll just come out of it angry, I'm sure, but it would be entertaining to put on camera. You ask why she's here, and she's like, I came to get your help. We need your help. Once again, calling Luke to action. And then he's like, it's time for the Jedi to end. I came to this island to die. And I had a note about that, because if Luke really thinks he needs to die, there are more efficient ways to go about it than going to some island in the middle of Ireland. Off the coast of Ireland, whatever. And waiting for his own death. Like, walk up to Snoke. He'll kill you. If you don't want to commit suicide, which would also be more efficient.
Snoke makes a comment about that later on in the movie.
Right, and that's an interesting through line that I'll also get to. But because Luke Skywalker has cut himself off from the Force, he shouldn't really enter into that equation, which would theoretically give rise to Rey. As far as the movie's logic goes, and when he reconnects to himself, it also makes sense. We'll come back to it, Ryan. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm just saying, like, you could just walk up to a First Order guy. He'll shoot you. This will be over real fast. I don't get it. It seems strange. And then we're back on the with the Resistance fleet. Poe gets slapped in the face and told he's demoted, which we talked about before. And I have a lot of notes about his plan. We can skip all those because we kind of went over that. He's like, there were heroes on those ships, and Leia says the line, "Dead heroes, no leaders," which had me say, what? Because that doesn't make sense. Because Poe was leading them.
That is a good point.
The implication is that you can't be a leader if your troops under you die, but you're in a war, people are going to die. Now, I know this movie has a message of war is bad. And this is like the beginning of that, because Poe is supposed to have learned a lesson by the end that, like, what Rose Tico says, we won't win by destroying what we hate, but by saving what we love. That, like, and it's weird that his lesson, which starts here and is that, gets transposed to her and Finn, but then he suddenly, like, comes to that revelation at the end anyways. It's a strange movie. It's a strange movie.
I think we can also say by this point we're introduced to Rose by this point in the movie.
No, I think that's later.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Let me look. I'm pretty sure that's later. Yeah, it's later.
Okay.
So their evac fleet comes out of hyperspace. They're like, whew, that was close. But then the First Order fleet shows up right behind them. They're like, oh my god, we're all gonna die. We have enough fuel for one jump. That's it.
Can track us through hyperspace.
Can track us through hyperspace. Which is elaborated when Finn meets Rose.
And they alluded to it in Rogue One.
Rogue One. Oh god.
It was one of the secret code names that they were going through.
Right.
Stardust.
And Darksaber.
Darksaber. Dark Wars.
Whatever. But then he's like, permission to go and blow stuff up in an X-Wing after Leia just reprimanded him and demoted him for doing that. And she's like, permission granted. It's like, okay? Huh? Like I said, this movie has me going, huh? Because if the line of thinking is, it's absolutely necessary now, it was absolutely necessary back then, because the Dreadnought was, as a line of dialogue specifically said, these things are fleet killers. So it would have destroyed their fleet, and they wouldn't have been able to get away if they hadn't destroyed it. Which means it was absolutely necessary to destroy it, or at least disable it. And with your slow-ass bombers, which make no sense, but we're going to gloss over that again, you had no other choice but to defend them as best you could as they went in very slowly. Having disabled the surface cannons of the Dreadnought, you then have to defend them from X-Wing or TIE fighters. And I don't see another way out of that other than those people dying because your ships suck.
Mixed messages all around.
Yes, it's weird. It's weird. All right, we can skip that. Then Kylo Ren is seen in his ship. He's attacking the fleet of 3 ships.
Oh, is this Mary Poppins Leia?
We'll get to that in a bit. We're not quite there yet. And he's able to fly right up to the hangar and blow up all their fighters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. I think that's just so you don't have a long drawn out dogfight in this long drawn out chase sequence, which is boring.
I would assume so.
Because they never send out fighters ever throughout the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just don't know. Kylo refuses to kill Leia. He's aimed at the bridge. They rerouted power to their aft shields so that they could go forward as fast as possible to try and get out of range. Okay. So the shielding over the bridge in the forward sections would be lowered, off, or low enough that he would be able to land shots. Fine. And he refuses to kill her. And that's fine. Like, that shows his inner conflict. I think it would have been more impactful if he had, like, seen one of his ships fire a missile and tried to stop it and then accidentally destroyed the bridge or just failed to stop it in some way. I don't know. I'm trying to make more sense out of this movie than I should. Holy plot convenience on that cannon range and shield strength. Because it's like they're just on the edge of range where our cannons are ineffective. It's like, wow. But they can't outrun us. It's like, wow. This is holy plot convenience, Batman. And then they say they can't support their fighter craft, or you're out of range, we won't be able to keep you covered. But if the enemy are incapable of sending out fighter craft of their own, which in the Star Wars universe seems to be the most effective counter to fighter craft, is other fighter craft. So as we saw in the beginning, Poe was able to disable surface cannons and things and avoid them, at least to some degree of success. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
The Empire doesn't really care about losses. Just send all your fighters at them. They'll die. But the bad guys are incompetent and stupid and baboonish.
I mean, I still don't understand why they wouldn't send one of their Star Destroyers through hyperspace for like 0.1 second.
Go ahead of them?
Yeah.
Cut them off?
Yeah, cut them off. Why,
Curtis, you're making more sense than this movie is.
It's just such a linear way of thinking about spaceships. It doesn't make sense.
Seems to demonstrate two-dimensional thinking. I don't know.
You're not thinking fourth dimensionally.
Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Then comes the Mary Poppins moment,
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Leia should have stayed dead. Carrie Fisher died in real life. You don't keep her character around. It doesn't make sense. Because the indication or the implication is that she was going to have a big role in episode 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there were interviews about that.
Mm-hmm.
When Carrie Fisher dies in real life, she can't have a bigger role, which means you don't keep her character around to have a role that she can't fulfill.
Yeah.
I think Rian Johnson was asked about that, and he said that they looked at trying to remove her, but for whatever reason, she had to still be in the movie. He determined that she couldn't not be in the second half of the movie.
She's in a coma most of it. She doesn't do anything until the last 10 minutes, and even then she's like, follow him. And she just kind of stands there a bunch.
Yep.
She doesn't do anything.
It's very weird.
Okay. All right. Then they introduce Laura Dern's character, Holdo, I think? Or is that after? Oh, no, that's just my notes about her character essentially being worthless. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, right. They opened an airlock into space to get Leia back in. They should have died because they would decompress the compartment.
They probably have another door that could.
No, you see it. When she flies through it in the Mary Poppins scene, you see her just fly through the debris right up to that door. She puts her hand on it, and then they
Yeah.
open it.
Right away?
Yes, in that scene.
They bypass the decompression.
What? That's not how space works.
Technically, you shouldn't be able to have fire or hear explosions in space either. But, they do that in Star Wars.
Right, but space is still lethal.
They're expecting you to really
Not pay attention to anything.
suspend your disbelief. Just
With an airlock to space being opened with people who aren't.
Suspend disbelief and subvert expectations.
yes.
Then we go back to the island after they cart Leia off to wherever, and Finn picks up the homing beacon or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Chewie's about to eat the porg.
Yes.
My note is, do it.
Chewie gets hungry.
Yeah, he does.
He's like 250 years old.
I'm telling you, he should have eaten the porg. And then Luke sneaks onto the Millennium Falcon, and they put a fixation on the dice.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked why. Because they're just shiny objects that were on the bridge of the Millennium Falcon, the cockpit. They're just there. It's kind of like the introduction of just random characters for no reason. It's like, it's just a thing. There wasn't a connection with the audience. Like, there was no story there. Solo hadn't come out yet and wasn't going to come out for
No, but those dice had
months.
Those dice had been there since the beginning of the original
Right,
trilogy.
but there's no story behind them. Like,
Maybe not.
Han never
Maybe not.
pointed out those dice and was like, kid, those dice, I got those in a something or whatever. Like, they mean nothing.
Maybe not to us, because it was never like written down in the
Right,
story.
and that's
but
my problem with it.
To people who like knew the history of like when the movie started, how Harrison Ford was like, you know what, needs one last minute touch, because
That Harrison Ford did that?
I forget if it was Harrison Ford or if it was just another guy who was working on the set, and they were like, this would be a really kind of Han Solo-ish move. He would be like,
Okay,
"Here,
but that
I'm gonna put this
connection
dice
isn't there with the audience, which means that the fixation on it is just kind of hollow for the rest of us.
Maybe, but there are definitely some people who knew about them.
Okay.
So maybe that was Rian Johnson's like little tribute to those people who did.
But once again, it's hollow for the rest of us. Luke and R2 have a little moment, and that was like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, I remember these. This was like sentimental and stuff. Luke says, I wish I could make you understand, and isn't that statement in itself an admission that your reasoning is flawed or weak? If you cannot convince other people why you're doing it, then isn't there probably not a very good reason that you're doing it? Just saying. Like, R2-D2 is ones and zeros. It should be pretty easy to get a straightforward message to him. It's not going to be... Well, he's kind of emotional. He's been alive a while. I don't know.
He's an old droid.
Yeah.
Beep boop.
They reused the A New Hope message. And that is what pushes Luke to do something. Not go back and help people, but just to do the training thing.
Right.
Okay, sure. And he says specifically to Rey when he's like, tomorrow morning, 3 lessons. And I'll explain to you why the Jedi need to end. And we'll come back to that. Then we're introduced to Holdo. Laura Dern's character, who has pink hair and a dress.
Mrs. Pink Hair.
And I could excuse the dress. I remember Mon Mothma having long flowing clothing, and she seemed to be a high-ranking member of the rebellion.
Right?
But it just seems like Holdo's kind of incompetent as a leader. Why are people following her? How did she get promoted? Or is this one of those situations where, like, her dad was someone, so she got a good position? I don't know.
I was a little confused about the whole... Okay, so in my mind, this whole movie pretty much could have been averted. The whole story, mostly to do with Holdo and Leia, because their whole plan, which we eventually find out...
Holdo's plan,
end,
we don't know if Leia had the same plan.
maybe, was let's get everybody into these smaller ships, because they're only
That
going
are
to be-
defenseless.
because they're only going to be scanning the big ship in the fleet, and they won't care about the smaller ones.
No.
And then they would be eventually close enough to get them to this other old rebel base.
Right.
So all of the conflict within Poe...
Oh, the
And-
Poe-Holdo conflict is avoided
and-
if she just tells them what she's doing.
Exactly. If
Which
they had just told them...
comes
and
back
then
to my point here about
and
her
then-
being a terrible leader.
Poe wouldn't have done this whole elaborate Canto Bite, let's go find a source...
A code breaker,
Code breaker.
which I have problems with that as well.
Because not
I
only
have
was
questions
there was
about it.
one really good code breaker, but then they found
Another
Another
really good code breaker who
code
had
breaker.
experience with the First Order. Talk about plot convenience, Batman.
and then things go awry, and then people get captured. It's because of that code breaker, because he sold them like information about what the fleet was doing or something.
About what the transports were doing.
Yes,
Which
So
doesn't make sense.
all of this could have been avoided
If
if-
Holdo wasn't a terrible leader.
if Holdo had just told them what the plan was. Albeit it wasn't a great plan,
No, it's a terrible plan.
but
And I have notes about that.
but at least at least we wouldn't have had this whole situation. Yeah, Rey would come back and the whole fleet would be gone.
Mhm.
But the homing beacon is on, one of those other people, so she could have followed them there,
Right.
I guess. But
Where is it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I have it here somewhere. Like Leia says the line later that like Holdo wasn't interested in looking like a hero, which is why she didn't tell them anything. Like at the point where your subordinates are holding you at gunpoint, telling you you're being bad, you think you'd cough up the information
Oh, without a doubt.
because that would assuage them from supplanting you and possibly wrecking your plan, which also doesn't make sense and sucks. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
I don't know
don't-
what Rian Johnson's trying to say about blindly following.
Blindly following leadership. Do it. That's what he says.
Yeah,
Like that's the lesson at the end of the movie is you should have blindly followed Holdo despite her not telling you anything and being kind of sus. I don't know. I just don't know. So yeah, right after that is the beginning of the Holdo Poe butting heads because she's immediately like she's just kind of adversarial towards him altogether.
Yeah, a little.
She's like, "You're captain, not commander, right?" That was Leia's last, whatever,
Yeah.
last official something, whatever. And he's just like, I just want to know what's going on. I want to know what we're doing. And she calls him impulsive and dangerous, and then tells him to get off the bridge. It's
Yeah.
like, you're being needlessly adversarial with someone. I don't see the point. And once again, it makes me question her ability as a leader. How did she become a admiral, general,
admiral.
whatever? Yeah. I'm telling you, she just knew people. She is Kathleen Kennedy of the Star Wars universe. She just knew people and was around people long enough that she got a good position.
I would
Perhaps.
have to imagine that they're gonna explain some backstory with her.
I think they already have.
Oh,
Maybe.
Yeah, but I don't. Hello, Allie.
Hi, Al. They popped in for like 10 seconds and
Saying happy birthday and left.
Yeah. spoken to my microphone.
Yeah,
Nope.
I guess not.
Maybe they went for a...
Yep, that's because it's recording.
I think it also says low battery.
Yeah.
Oh.
That seems problematic. Don't worry, just 7 more pages.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh,
Come on, Ollie.
come.
Bring Ryan his present.
Whoa.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
You were on camera already in this show.
That's true, you were.
What is it, Ryan?
Oh boy. Detective Pikachu.
Nice.
I like Detective Pikachu.
You don't already have it, do you?
No.
Okay, great.
All
What's
right.
better, Last Jedi or Detective Pikachu?
Detective
Detective
Pikachu. I haven't even
Pikachu.
seen Detective Pikachu, and I can say that. It's
got-
probably just more consistent overall.
It's got Ryan Reynolds in it, so yeah, it's Detective Pikachu.
Solid.
What are you trying to say, Allie? Action? You gave us the action motion.
Yeah.
I gave you the kill motion. Yes, I agreed with you. He's going to kill us.
Like,
No.
I know where the button is.
Good times. So now is when Finn meets Rose.
Yes.
He's trying to take the beacon on an escape pod so that Rey doesn't come back to a fleet that's doomed to be destroyed.
Yes.
Which is actually fairly solid logic, and once again consistent with Finn being more concerned about Rey than the rest of the Resistance.
Yes.
Allie is giving a motion.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Please and thank you.
Thank you, Allie.
She's grabbing a battery for our camera, which is about to go dead.
We'll do something.
We'll do something. Hee hee. So Rose walks up and she's like, "You're Finn, the Finn." And I wrote down, we're like 35 minutes after The Force Awakens at this point. And she knows who the hell Finn is. He came to their base twice. Once when he was unconscious.
Yep.
Yeah.
What? She's like, "Paige told me all about you." So all she knows about Finn is secondhand information.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There must be a Resistance newsletter that goes out like every day.
Every 5 minutes.
This comes to my second
Here
question
we go.
from Charles. Thank you, Charles. Why does Rose get so much hate? She is far from being the Jar Jar of this trilogy, in my opinion.
Her character is just kind of useless. Like, because the whole Canto Bite thing doesn't serve a purpose, her character doesn't serve a purpose until she hits Finn out of the way at the end, which takes a character moment, defining moment away from him. So she's just kind of annoying because she's there and kind of just says expository dialogue and interrupts people.
Alrighty.
I think that's why I dislike the character of Rose Tico. I don't know. Rose calls him a selfish traitor when he's trying to save Rey. Just something I noted. So at this point, Finn had woken up from being stunned, and he's like, "I've got this tracking beacon, I've got to save Rey, I've got to stop her from coming here." And then I'm pretty sure it's after that she calls him a selfish traitor. I could be wrong. I could be flipping events around. I just have random notes. And then he starts talking about how they're tracking this ship, and then she comes to the determination that they have figured out hyperspace tracking. And okay, all right. I here's my note. I'm gonna let this one go. The specifics of hyperspace tracking. I specifically wrote it. It wasn't worth my time and effort. It really wasn't. Oof. Finn knows quite a bit about the technology about it for being a janitor, though. Like, Rose, I'll give Rose this. Like, she was a technician. She would kind of understand how this stuff works. So in that respect, okay.
There's got to be, your stormtrooper general credits that you got to take. So he's got some general knowledge.
He knew about their super duper
At
technology.
Stormtrooper indoctrination school.
Yeah.
They're only tracking from the lead ship because they go and tell Poe. And Poe's like, let's go blow it up. No, they'll just start tracking us from a different ship. And I have the question written down, why are the other ships not tracking them already? That would create a redundancy, and therefore mechanical failures can happen. If that happened on one of your ships, you'd have other ships already tracking it, rather than having to wait the full, as they say, 6 minutes before they would have noticed something was wrong, which is what their plan is, to go and disable it. So I don't get it. If they're only tracking from the lead ship and it was going to take them 6 minutes to figure it out, they only had 6 minutes to get away after they disabled it. Go and blow up the ship and then quick jump out before they can activate the tracker on the ship. Wouldn't that still work?
Probably.
But then we wouldn't have a whole pointless Canto Bite scene. So I suppose that makes perfect sense. Good job, Rian Johnson. You flawless logic. All right. Here we are. So
I don't remember what happens next.
well, they're like, all right, so we've got to go disable the ship, but no one can get past their shields. And then Poe and Finn share a look, and it's like, there's that one person. Poe never interacted with Maz Kanat.
Implication, I think, is that she's just a friend of the
Resistance?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
I don't know. And they call up Maz, and she's in an adventure, and it's been a full 40 minutes after The Force Awakens, and her temple blew up, and she's already caught up in something. Instead of, I don't know, rebuilding. Rian Johnson, I'm like, if you could answer these questions, I'd love to hear the answers. I'm very confused.
There's a
She's like-
lawnmower.
There's the lawnmower. That's annoying. Oh well. So Maz is like, sure, I could help you, but I'm a little busy right now because she's in this adventure. She got caught up in 40 minutes after The Force Awakens.
Right.
But she tells them to go find the Master Codebreaker. She doesn't give a name,
Just a pin.
just a description. Like he'll be wearing, which is a description based on, it's a reference to second Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, because it's what Indiana Jones is wearing at the beginning of that movie, which is clever. But you would still give a name, right? That way you could ask, hey, are you the Master Code? No, you'd ask, hey, are you so-and-so?
You, Jesse?
Are you Jesse? Is that a Breaking Bad reference? I only watched the first season.
Oh, come on. You gotta watch the rest.
It'll probably never happen, Curtis.
Why not?
I don't know.
It gets so good.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Movie was good.
that too.
El Camino.
And if they're able to call Maz Kanat when she's in the middle of a space adventure 40 minutes after The Force Awakens, you'd think they could call up, what's his name, the Master Codebreaker on this planet that he's in a casino, like he's in a civilized area. Why can't you just call this guy up?
Right. Long distance collected.
Oh, that's right, because otherwise we wouldn't go to Canto Bight and have a whole pointless 30 minutes of the movie.
Right.
Flawless logic, Rian Johnson. So then we're back with Rey, and they have the first Force Skype call. Curtis, how would you describe the Force Skype call?
Well, I guess it was these two characters. Vader and Luke had Force Skype calls.
They were just talking to each other. They didn't show up in front of, like, they weren't able to see one another.
Good point. I mean, whatever. It's the Force. You can you can make the Force do what you want it to do, I guess.
Like-
do it to a degree.
I'm less concerned about the ability and just sort of the implementation, because it's supposed to bring these two characters together, but then the end of the movie is just like, they go their separate ways, whatever. I don't know.
But it was all Snoke's doing, right?
Right. He bridged their minds, but their minds are still bridged after he's dead, so...
I know. A dyad in the Force.
That didn't exist yet.
All right.
Is that the Emperor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I was thinking about watching The Rise of Skywalker after I finished.
but then
The
you
Last
finished
Jedi.
The Last Jedi and was like,
And I was
oh
like,
my god.
That was a lot of movie. I just feel like taking a break.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker is better than Last Jedi.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
I would agree.
Interesting.
Chewie got his medal.
Yes.
Spoiler
Who
alert.
cares? It's been 50 years. Move on.
People have been waiting for that moment.
40 years?
I don't know which people, but
Wait, no. It would be close to 50, wouldn't it?
it was like
49 years. Rise of Skywalker came out. Oh, yeah, you're right. No. I'm being crazy. Force bonds are something that it had existed in lore previously, so it's something like it's an interesting concept presented. One of many. Like Rian Johnson, he came up with a bunch of ideas, and some of them are really interesting, but he doesn't really do anything interesting with them. He just uses them to not do what you think he would probably do.
Subverting expectations.
Right. It's strange.
I bypassed the expectations.
That was the Rise of Skywalker, bypassing expectations.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. Rey gets really angry at Kylo Ren, which shows like the rising darkness within her, maybe, possibly. Like this is sort of a theme throughout her until you get to the end of the throne room scene. Is like she has sort of this dark side to her. That's reflected in the cave bit, which is a ripoff of The Empire Strikes Back. But Rian Johnson knew that. He just didn't care. That's why he did something weird by having Rey just see herself at the end of it. Was because he knew that it was a direct reference to The Empire Strikes Back, and he knew it would be compared to that. So he did something weird and nonsensical because he didn't want to be The Empire Strikes Back.
This brings me to another Charles
well,
comment.
we're not actually to the cave sequence yet.
No, but
All right,
just
go
stating
for
it has made me realize another thing that Charles had said to me. Overall, the new trilogy feels like a rehash of the original trilogy. It also feels like all three films do not feel related besides sharing characters.
Pretty much.
So, thank you, Charles.
Yeah. I would rate that statement as essentially accurate. All right, Rey shot at Kylo, and she blew a hole in the side of her little hovel,
Yeah.
which brought me to the Space Monk's question mark. What's the point? Question mark.
To guard the caves and the tree.
Guard the tree.
From who? The planet is supposed to be unfindable, Curtis.
Right, but the finders find it. So they gotta keep it unfound. I don't
Go
know.
on, please. I'm intrigued by this line of thought.
I don't know. There's no reason.
They're just there.
They're there
just
to be comedic,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Not
Kinda
as
like the
comedic
Porg.
as the Porg.
The pork are just annoying.
Yeah. But they look tasty.
That's true. I'd eat a pork. All right, so then Rey and Luke go up to the magical pool or whatever. Or
Just the cliff.
the
There's
cliff.
a little.
Right.
There's a
little thing.
fountain thing in there.
Which I bring up because it has Star Wars version of the yin yang, where it's like half as light, half as dark. Which once again, that through line of balance in the Force, which I have a lot of notes about that when we get to the throne room scene,
Yeah.
because that's sort of where that culminates, I think. So Rey demonstrates her misunderstanding of the Force, which I only note because at the end of the movie, she's like moving rocks, which is what she misunderstood the Force being about.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't really learn anything.
The whole scene where
Don't know.
Luke
Just don't know.
is having her sit on the
Right, that's
on the
this.
cliff.
And he's got his little... Did he just have the branch for that bit? Because he tosses it away right afterwards.
I don't know. But I still thought that was really funny. Reach out, and he's like...
Then he starts tickling her and
he's
slaps
like,
her hand.
I feel something.
Yeah.
It's like, you must be really strong in the Force.
Right. But then Luke's spiel, which is, once again, the balance between light and dark, which is like the Force is between it all, that it doesn't belong to the Jedi or the Sith, which is, I think that's Rian Johnson's interpretation of the Force. Because the implication of the first 6 movies was that Luke Skywalker destroying the Sith, or Anakin Skywalker destroying the Sith, was going to bring balance to the Force, which means the balance was attained through the Jedi winning, sort of, maybe. Like, there isn't exactly clear evidence to support that in the first 6 movies, but that's sort of the idea behind it, was like, the Force was good after Palpatine and Darth Vader were destroyed. Things were good now. I don't know. Just don't know. Rey is reaching out with the Force, and the darkness calls to her, or something.
Yeah.
Spooks Luke. Like, the darkness had something you needed. It's a strange line. I don't know.
He may have been setting this up for the next movie with those couple of lines. Even though he knew he had no attachment to the next project.
Don't know. Just don't know. But then why would you leave Rey off at the end of this movie like just a Jedi? We'll get more into that later too. She comes to the realization that Luke closed himself off to the Force, which, as I said, how'd he get that fish up? I'm seriously, like, this is the one question that I've had since the beginning that burns in my mind whenever I think about this movie, is that dumb fish, because it makes no sense. I focus on the important things.
They should have had a bigger fish come along and steal it off his hook.
There's always a bigger fish. But, and I also note that because Luke's line right after that is like, I've seen this raw strength only once before. How can he gauge her strength in the Force if he's closed himself off to it?
He can see it.
He can see it with his eyes.
See the Force.
He's Neo in Matrix 3, Matrix Revolutions?
Matrix 4 coming
Or
out
was that
next year.
I don't remember the Matrix titles. I'm sorry. Someone
There
can
was
correct me.
Yeah,
Reloaded
Reloaded was the 2.
Oh,
and then
I was
Revolutions.
right. Cool. Look at that.
I rewatched those movies a little while ago. It started off great with the first one. I was like, this is a good movie. I love this. And then I started watching the second and the third movie. I'm like, these aren't as good. Like, there are some parts that I was like...
This has been our review of the Matrix trilogy. Thank you for tuning in.
Because I think the last time I had seen them before that, I was like, I don't know, 17, 18. Whenever we first got them...
And then I watched them like 6 years later, and you probably watched one with me, and then you stopped watching. Yeah, I remember that happening.
And then I was like, this is just... Why isn't this as good?
It got really philosophical.
Yeah. We'll see how this next one goes. Anyways, back to the Star Wars
Anywho.
trek.
So then Rey, she's enjoying the rain, which I thought is actually a nice little character moment. She grew up in a desert, and she's like, oh, look, water everywhere. This is neat.
Well, she states something like that in The Force Awakens, how she's like...
I've never seen this much green. Yeah.
So now she sees blue.
blue skies. That brings us back to Picard. Haha, this has been a trick to lure my friends into a Picard discussion all over again. It just took 7 pages of notes. Imagine. No, there's water on Kylo's face because they have another Skype call. Force Skype.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I suppose it's not Force Skype because Force Skype was like what Luke and Vader did. What would this be?
This is like...
They've talked about it in novels.
We don't care.
Slightly.
Force transportation of objects?
Yeah.
Force translocation.
Translocation.
There we go.
Quattro triticale.
Quattro triticale.
A Russian invention.
Russian invention. And I just wrote next
This is
to that
vodka.
implications because, as they shown with the Rise of Skywalker, you can do a bunch of really wacky shit with that kind of ability. Seems kind of important.
That brings me back to another review that I had read. It was this guy just said that this movie was magical. The Force got more magical. The characters got more magical. It was like Harry Potter.
Odd coincidence that I gave Curtis back 2 Harry Potter books today.
Hey.
It all connects, people.
And also, so this is another note that I made of the movie. Sorry to get off track, but
Go for it.
As of right now, this movie is the 14th highest grossing film of all time. It accrued $1.3 billion, and it's just under Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Oh. It really does all connect.
And it just beat out Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, so not quite having anything to do with it, but still.
A different terrible movie that made a bunch of money, and we'll have a sequel.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I think Fallen Kingdom's better than Last Jedi.
I didn't watch it.
I
You
did.
haven't seen Fallen Kingdom?
No, it looked terrible.
It's predictable.
It's very predictable.
Considering their entire marketing scheme was, we got Jeff Goldblum back, but he's only in the movie for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a bit longer than 10 seconds, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 35 seconds.
How many minutes has this been since The Force Awakens now, Noah?
Exactly 53 minutes and 52 seconds. I wrote that down because I paused the movie last night. And this was the point in time when I paused it. Talk about coincidences.
Oh, man.
You've
all
made
come
my
together.
day. It all came together. I love it when a plan comes together. Because at this point, Rose and Finn have landed on Canto Bight, and they're going around. Like they couldn't be bothered to find a landing pad
No.
for their ship.
So they just land on a beach.
You'd think like an organized city would have flight control, right?
you would think.
Ryan's thinking about it. Thinking. I can see the gears turning. There's smoke coming out of his ears.
I don't know.
He doesn't know. All that for I don't know. Incredible. Incredible. Yeah. And then they're running around in the Cantino, and then Finn's being all like, wow, this is awesome. And I'm like, aren't you on a mission? You're enjoying the sights?
He was a stormtrooper for forever who didn't get to enjoy a whole lot of things except mopping.
It's weird.
All
you
right,
know,
all
the promotion of the video or of the movie, the video. They really hyped up the Canto.
Bite.
Yeah, the whole thing. They're like, oh wow, this is going to be the most exotic and over rich city you've ever seen in movie history.
We've seen Coruscant.
Yeah, I know.
These are just a bunch of people in tuxedos. They're all monochromatic clothing, except for the guy with the red star.
I know. I don't.
Or the red flower? I don't remember.
There's a lot of hype for nothing.
For basically nothing. So they're at the bar, and then the bar starts shaking, and Rose is like, "Is that what I think it is?" Because she was apparently able to know from the rattling that these specific space horses were being raced outside. Then they walk upstairs and go and look at them.
I felt that rattle before.
Maybe Jeff Goldblum with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'd buy that.
Yeah.
Bringing it back around.
Right. I don't know.
I just have questions. Just have a lot of questions. My page flipped on accident. Oops. Or did it? Where was I? Oh, there we are. And Rose starts talking about Canto Bight like she knows the place. It's like, this is the worst kind of town. I'm like, your information about Finn seemed really secondhand and not reliable. How much do you actually know about this town? I don't know. And the space horses. In a universe that has pod racing, why are they racing space horses?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I just have questions. And a few grievances. The line, only one business that gets people this rich, which is war. Underneath that, I have a note that was communicated to me by other people, meaning other things about The Last Jedi that I've seen, which is tell that to people like Bill Gates.
Oh.
Who's made his money selling technology to people. And is one of the richest people in the world. Seem to indicate that war is not the only way to make money, and a lot of it, but anti-war sentiments. I don't know. It just seems like a weird line.
Weird.
So then BB-8 comes and gets them, and he's like, I found the red lapel, and Rose has to translate that. He said, that's what she says. So he said, blah, 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 she found him.
Oh, right.
Because they have to translate for the audience.
Right. No, I understand.
Or something. I don't know. So, but then the guy who was complaining about them parking on the beach because they couldn't find the landing pad catches up to them with the police. It's like, there they are. And they just toss BB-8 out of the club instead of taking him with Rose and Finn to prison, like putting a
Maybe he just
restraining
ran
bolt.
away.
No, there's a scene. They throw him out.
Really?
Yes.
I
Holy
know-
plot convenience, Batman.
I noticed something how like all the people that are like, the good guys, they always treat the robots as sentients, and all the bad guys don't. So they all just kind of assume that it's just a droid. I'll just throw it away. It won't do anything.
Weird.
I don't know.
Weird. All right, then we're back with Rey, and she's saber training because she just kind of throws it. She just kind of whips it around. It's like me when I was 6 with a plastic lightsaber. She's not actually training. She's just kind of swinging it around. Nothing.
We get to see a good Luke judging face. He's like,
Right, when she cuts the rock in half. And then the rock falls on the space monk's wheelbarrow. I'm like, huh?
comedy.
Comedy. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
It's something of a comedy network.
Comedy Central.
Oh, yeah, Comedy Central.
And we're on it now.
So it's right after that Luke recounts a version of what happened between him and Ben Solo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't he also? Is this also when he essentially just like says the entire arc of the prequels in like a sentence?
Maybe. That might be a little later. I don't know. We'll see if my notes get there or go into that much. But basically, he's like, I thought I could train him and I thought I could help him, and I failed or something. And then he went to confront Ben in the middle of the night, but he had already been turned, and he crushed the HUD on him. And I was like, interesting. I don't know. Just don't know. I suppose I made that note because I remember thinking coming out of the theater 3 years ago, there were a couple of distinct thoughts. The first thought was actually my first note. What was the point of the opening crawls? The second was...
Force Awakens or Last Jedi?
Last Jedi, I'm sorry. I misspoke. It'll happen. Was that the Luke's original version of events, which, as we found out, wasn't true, made the most sense in terms of his character and the universe. Which was that he just went to confront and talk to Ben about things, and then Ben went kind of nutso. And then the last thought that I had was, that kind of sucked. Speaking about the whole movie. This was me coming out of the theater, after all. And I remember voicing that thought to Jace Kai Kawana and Cody Kirkhoff. Two people on the football team that I played on. Because we went to see the movie together.
What did they say?
Jace gave his laugh, which I cannot recreate because that man's laugh is unique. I can't do it. I can't do it justice, so I won't even try. And he went, yeah, it's kind of what did. Cody said nothing because he doesn't talk. And he probably won't watch this, so I can talk as much shit as I want. Suck it, Cody.
All right.
Well, yeah.
I don't remember what I thought. I remember just kind of being baffled by the whole...
Movie?
Well, the weird, fly the ship into the Star Destroyers.
Oh, right, because that breaks things, too.
Right.
I think I also wrote for that, I'm going to let this one go. Because it exists purely to create that spectacle moment.
Right.
It has no thought about its existence in the universe. It exists purely to create a visual.
Well, and then Rise of Skywalker, they're like, why not pull the Holdo maneuver? Like, you
not the
can't. That's a
Picard
once-in-a-million
maneuver.
shot.
Then why call it a maneuver?
I don't know.
If it's not able to be pulled off consistently,
I don't know.
unlike, say, the Picard maneuver.
The Super Picard maneuver?
No, just the regular Picard maneuver. Dear God, what is this? Star Trek Picard? Haha. See what I did there? What happens next? All right. After that, Rey's like, I need someone to show me my place in all this. Once again, calling Luke to action to help her, to train her properly. Because he's only giving her 3 lessons, 2.5, 1 3/4. I don't know how we're counting lessons here.
Yeah.
What constitutes a lesson?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Just Luke talking.
Just Luke talking. All right, so then we're back to Canto Bight. We're in the prison. There's Rose and Finn. They both start with R. I'm sorry, I'm not actually. And they're talking about like, oh no, we're doomed. The Resistance is doomed. We can't get to the Master Codebreaker. And then Guillermo del Toro's character pops out of the shadows. Holy plot convenience, Batman. They find a code breaker who has had experience with the First Order. I think I said that before, but it's just like, oh wow, he's right there.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yep.
And he unlocks the door and walks out. So he could have done that at any point?
Yes.
Why didn't he?
Because he
'Cause it was
wanted
set up.
money.
He's the
But
First
he goes
Order
and steals
put in
the
there.
ship anyways.
But he wants more money from the First Order.
But that's not his plan.
No. But he still wanted money.
So he goes and steals the ship anyways once he breaks out of prison.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Questions. Questions indeed. So then he walks one direction, Finn and Rose walk the other direction. Del Toro, I don't remember what the character's name was, and I just watched this movie. I have no clue.
Yeah, I
I don't-
don't remember.
I would have written it down if I had heard it specifically mentioned, but it's not really, so I didn't write it down. He runs into BB-8. BB-8 knocked out 3 different guards and tied them up. He doesn't have arms or legs. He's a ball.
With coins.
I'm a ball. How am I going to brace myself? I don't have any arms. Someone rolled me into a corner. Quick. Red versus blue reference. Never mind.
That is...
Andy the bomb.
Yeah,
They had a sentient bomb.
yeah. And
That
then
was really funny.
somehow
Oh, right.
there's
he survived.
continuity.
There's a continuity.
confusion
Yes.
there.
Because Andy was the one who blew up on the ship that was then crashing during that whole... It's not important.
Yeah, on that episode, and then the ship didn't crash and crashed somewhere else.
No, it
and
did crash.
It did eventually
No, no, no.
crash. But
In the end of season 5, the ship blows up and
Yes.
it's gone, and then it somehow crashed in season
Yeah.
6. This is not important, Curtis.
it's so.
Anyways,
I did like Andy.
Andy the bomb is hilarious. Well, it's even better because Tucker accidentally calls him in season 11, I think.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, Siri, he tells Siri to do something, and then Siri's like, calling Andy the bomb, completely unrelated, like Siri can't hear you and understand you. Siri, hang up. You've reached Andy the bomb. If you want to read a voicemail, it's just a pointless gag. It's so great. Where was I? Oh, right. So Finn and Rose go down into like this sewer grate. And then they come out right next to the Space Horses, which is convenient. And Finn has the line, the cops will be here any minute. So these sewers only have one exit? How would the cops know where they were?
I don't know.
Questions. And then the kid helps them escape with the Space Horses. Like, if you don't take the Space Horses, you aren't a target to be followed around by the space police.
But they can't leave the Space Horses in captivity being used for sport.
Sport horses are treated very well. Curtis, you know this person's Sandy? We call her Auntie Sandy. She's not actually our aunt. Long story.
I'm aware. I'm just trying to go by
she
the
treats
logic.
her horses?
Oh, I have no doubt. I'm trying to
I don't know.
envision poor Rose's experience.
Experience with what? She lived on a mining planet. They didn't have horses or space horses or whatever.
Oh,
It's very confusing to me.
silence.
Finally. So that background noise hopefully wasn't picked up too much, but it was probably annoying you too. You're welcome. Earlier, there was a line that I think Holdo said, and she was like, the downtrodden will become our allies and help us save. And apparently the downtrodden allies are these children, because like no one else helps Finn and Rose except the shady guy. Don't know. That's just a thought that occurred to me when I watched it again. Luke reconnects with the Force because we go back, I think. Did we cut or no? We saved the Space Horses. There was the whole tromp through the Canto Bite. I summed that up as we saved the Space Horses! Exclamation point. Because apparently that was a big thing. It was worth it, right? Smashing up that town. That's the line. Now it was worth it when she takes the saddle off.
Yes.
You'll notice that the space cops don't shoot them when they're on the horses, indicating that they're going to recapture the Space Horses because they're just out.
Yep.
3 football fields out beyond where they were.
Yep.
Did cause a bunch of property damage, though. The good guys cause property damage and mess up people's homes and their lives.
Oh no! How dare they?
What did the bad guys do? They just shot at them. At the good guys who were doing all these things. I don't know.
Are you suggesting that the Empire did nothing wrong?
Yes, I actually am, and I believe that fully.
Oh boy. Dark Wars.
Dark Wars.
Well, Curtis, if you look at everything, including episodes 7, 8, and 9, the universe or the galaxy of Star Wars was far more stable and prosperous under the Empire's reign, which means that the Empire did nothing wrong.
Right.
And it's in fact the Jedi that are messing stuff up. Blink, blink.
It means it's recording. We're
getting
there.
We're getting there.
It can't be outside of
Okay.
Okay.
if I can't get the whole unscrewed, it's gonna be one of the three of you then do that later once you're done. But don't forget.
Not forgetting.
Okay.
All right, so takes off the saddle, the horse runs away.
I've already forgotten.
Yeah.
Smart. And then Guillermo del Toro shows up with BB-8 in a spaceship. It's like, let's go. And they fly away.
Yeah.
Cut back to Rey. She's in a hovel. No. Luke's up at the top of the cliff, and he reconnects with the Force, and he's like, Leia, Luke, and they say each other's name when she's in the hospital bed. Think of how much more powerful that moment would have been if Luke had sensed her being gone. Like, she was dead at that point. Maybe that pushes him to go and do stuff. I don't know. It's like I said, it seems like she doesn't really have a role after that point in the movie. What do I know? And then Rey is having another space translocation with Ben Solo, and this is Ben Swallow.
Yes, it is Ben Swallow. So,
as the meme goes,
so swole.
He's shirtless for no reason, and he refuses to put on a shirt because she wants him to put on a shirt. I think. I don't know. It's kind of bizarre. And it's at this point when he's
Comedy.
comedy. Let the past die, kill it if you have to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a line that is hotly talked about.
Mm-hmm. It
just
was like in the trailers
Right.
all the time.
I just it doesn't really have much to do with anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Weird. And this kind of pushes Rey to go towards the cave, which I've got a connecting dot or line back to Luke reconnecting with the Force, which, like I said, there's the through line that comes back in the throne room. Snoke says the line, darkness rises in light to meet it. Luke reconnected to the Force, and he's still a Jedi. Like, philosophically, he still believes in all that. He's not a dark side user. He's just kind of disenfranchised with the whole Force thing, right? So then Rey goes towards the cave, which means the through line of darkness rises to meet the light kind of makes sense. Like I said, Rian Johnson's interpretation is like fairly consistent throughout the movie. It's just kind of weird.
Weird.
So the cave scene, we discussed it earlier, where it's just kind of pointless because he wants it to be pointless, because otherwise it would just be Empire Strikes Back again, which it is and it isn't, and that's his point, is that it isn't, but it is. I don't know. It's weird.
You guys played Jedi Fallen Order, right?
I did.
I have
Ryan
not.
did not.
Oh, well, the main character finds a similar weird reflective wall in one of the Jedi temples, and he kind of has a similar experience. Not really.
But he has like visions about a possible future at that point, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's the same kind of reflective, weird glass thing.
And I thought it was interesting because that whole scene sort of reflects the subversive nature of the movie itself. See what I did there? Reflects. I'm clever. No. The movie is both being Star Wars and trying to not be Star Wars as hard as possible, which is, it's just strange. So then Rey goes back and she's talking about her cave experience with Kylo Ren in more Skype. And they touch hands. Bridging light and dark.
And then
He's given me the nod about the shippers, and it's disturbing me.
The
no, I was just
shippers?
thinking
The
about
shipper. Oh, Curtis doesn't know. Let's keep him in the
Yeah.
dark.
I was just
Save
thinking
him.
about what happens next, and Luke's like, "No!"
Oh, right. He blows up the whole thing.
It's like, cannot happen.
Which would seem to indicate that he saw Kylo Ren there?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, Ryan. It's very, like the rest of this movie, it's strange and not very clear
Yeah.
and or convoluted in many ways.
But the cinematography's
The
great.
cinematography is great.
Yeah.
Music's not bad either.
Yeah.
I like this soundtrack more than Rise of Skywalker's.
I haven't really listened through either. I've listened through Force Awakens, but I haven't given either 8 or 9 a good listen. So
I think 9 is the weakest of any Star Wars soundtrack ever.
maybe.
Discounting Rogue One and Solo because they don't count.
All
That
right.
case in Cage no Moidia doesn't count. So then, yeah, Luke walks in. No. Blows up the hut.
It was just there, and then it's gone.
It's gone. A billion pieces. Those monks were putting it back together for nothing. And then they fight with sticks.
Yep.
She has her staff, and he pulls a little antenna that doesn't look strong enough to hold off her stick. And a lot of people have a problem with this scene because they're like, well, Ray won, and he was actually trained. It's like, Luke wins the fight. She pulls the lightsaber out, and then that's technically cheating because he didn't have a saber to actually defend himself with. So
Right.
he did win. I don't know. Strange. And then Rey's like, what happened? I think my notes glossed over the part where Kylo told his side of events.
Yeah.
That happened at some point.
Which was essentially him just like
Sitting
thinking
there
that-
ready to kill him.
Yeah. It's just there, going to like.
like the scene is just him. It's like the angriest face Mark Hamill could put on with a saber in his hands.
And then we get the combination of both of
Right. The true story, which happens
Yeah.
now, and it's like Snoke had already turned his heart, is a line that Luke Skywalker specifically says, which begs the question: who was Snoke? How did he get involved in all of this?
The Emperor. Duh.
What?
Hello.
What?
The Emperor
That doesn't make
created
sense.
Snoke.
Okay. Was Snoke involved in the Jedi Temple? Like, how did he start to interact with Ben Solo?
I don't know.
Gotta read the comics.
Ryan, I'm not going to read the comics. This information should be in the movie because the questions are begged from these series of events and these lines of dialogue. But this line in itself doesn't really make sense because Luke Skywalker redeemed Darth Vader, his father, who had committed terrible crimes, as other people have countlessly stated countless times. Like that should be the moment of hubris where Luke Skywalker failed, was that he couldn't actually redeem Ben. He thought he could. Like that would make more sense. It's like, I saved Darth Vader, I can surely save my nephew. And he failed to do that, instead of thinking he could stop bad things and going to kill his nephew in a moment of sheer instinct or something. I don't know. It would just make more sense consistently with his character and with the universe. What do I know? Rey is like, they're still good in him. Luke's like, it's not going to go the way you think, which might be a meta line from Rian Johnson.
The line was put in there for the trailers. It's the only way. It's like, we have
Right.
to get this in there.
Well, wait, I'm curious if that was actually a meta line from Rian Johnson. Like, this isn't going to be the movie you think it is. I don't know. But once again, Rey holds out the lightsaber, a last call to action, which he once again doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything until she leaves. So, like, if she had left 5 minutes after, when he first said no, maybe he would have done something sooner, and this movie would be a lot shorter. I don't know. She flies away in the Millennium Falcon, and then he goes to destroy the tree with the Jedi texts, and Yoda shows up. Curtis, what do you think of Yoda?
I loved Yoda.
He loved Yoda.
Yeah. He was a puppet again.
I know, that was
It's
nice.
The greatest.
My line, or my note is Puppet Yoda greater than sign.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously set up this weird precedent where Force ghosts can interact with
The real world.
real life, which, okay.
The argument could be made that this temple and island was in like a force-sensitive place.
So it's like,
That's a stretch, but I'm trying to give this movie something.
right. Increased force properties in that region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's confusing, and as you said, it sets a precedent, which is problematic, shall we say.
I would agree that it's probably stronger, or at least more susceptible to using the Force, since it's the birthplace of the Jedi.
Or
Or
a
whatever.
temple.
Yeah.
They built a temple there. It
The
should.
first Jedi temple or whatever.
Yeah. Yoda's like, you got to look past the pile of old books. And there was nothing in those books that the girl Rey doesn't already possess. But she has the books.
Yeah, she literally meant she had
And she's reading them at the start of the next movie.
Yep.
But not in this movie. You just see them very briefly in the Millennium Falcon. Like 3 seconds.
Blink and you miss it.
Blink and you miss it. So then we're back with Rose and Finn and Del Toro. He wants her necklace, which is literally a MacGuffin to get them somewhere. It's like, so her sister had the same necklace, and she had that necklace. And the only reason that that's important is so they can get through the door right before they're captured. It just seems like a long, pointless series of events.
It's to try to make you like
Think
him as a
something's
character.
gonna happen, and
Right.
and I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Subverting expectations.
They're like, oh, this guy's shifty. He's going to take her necklace and use it for bad things. And then, oh, he's actually nice. He
But he's
was
not.
just using it to get into the ship.
And then he
wow.
betrays them again.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay.
The classic double cross.
Don't trust random strangers you meet in a prison cell. I could have told you that one, Rian Johnson. Poe confronts Holdo again. He wants to know what's happening, and it's like she doesn't, and that leads him to commit mutiny, which we discussed before.
Yep.
Poe. Oh, right. Finn and Rose are on the Star Destroyer at this point. Snoke's Star Destroyer. They put a garbage basket over BB-8.
Right.
That happens right after the fake out with the ironing. The iron.
Mm-hmm. Poor BB-8.
R2-D2's better, I'm sorry. Go die.
Oh.
Poe explains his plan to Holdo, and she says, "You bet our survival on bad odds," and something else. And I'm like, your plan's not much better.
Yeah.
That's
And-
true.
Because they all wind up dying because of her plan, too.
Yeah. Could have just told them her plan.
Yeah. Prevent mutiny
all
when he's
would have been avoided.
holding a gun to her face. Like, that's this part. I don't know. Rey jumps out of an escape pod, lands on the ship. You have the throne room scene, which is another Rian Johnson obvious callback to something we know and recognize from the Star Wars universe, just to do something different. Because otherwise you'd be making a Star Wars movie. And he doesn't want to do that. Also, another note is the throne room is very red. That's so you know it's evil, I think. Like, it's just pointlessly red. I don't know. There's like nothing in that room. There's like a big throne in the middle and there's red walls.
And a magnifying glass.
Right. It's like, this seems so sparsely decorated and boring architecturally. I don't know.
I'm sure Rian Johnson was like, I want something simple yet iconic.
You achieved neither.
Ooh.
Or maybe you did, I don't know. So Poe is on the bridge, and he's like, you're fueling up the transports. And I thought they didn't have a lot of fuel. How are they fueling up the transports?
Reserves.
Reserves?
Extra
Aren't
reserves.
they using their reserves?
Extra reserves.
Okay, sure. Well, and I bring that up because then Holdo apparently has enough fuel to actually make a jump to hyperspace.
I know. It's,
I'm confused. Finn and Rose get caught with Guillermo del Toro. And it was because BB-8 was in the trash can thingy, right? And I bring that up because the evil droid, black droid with the red light, that Mark Hamill specifically said they designed it that way so that you would look at it and go, Nazi! Like, he has an interview where he says it exactly like that. It's hilarious. Which is, I think, the best thing to come out of this movie.
oh my gosh.
So they get caught, and then the evil droid is once again looking at BB-8 in the trash can, but apparently doesn't say anything to anyone because BB-8 shows up later in that ATSD, completely unhindered. I'm confused.
There must be a deleted scene where BB-8 and the Nazi droid had a showdown.
They're bonking into each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I would watch that. Just like Star Wars Battlefront these days. Topical. Captain Phasma shows up, and we are 135 minutes after The Force Awakens. How'd she get out of that garbage chute that they tossed her down in Starkiller Base that exploded or imploded or something? It was a giant fiery explosion, and everybody died. Except for Captain Phasma. She had her tray table up and her seat back in the full upright position. Did you know where I was going, Curtis? You should have seen it coming.
I should have.
So this happens, and Poe and Finn were talking to each other. They had a communicator, and Poe hears that Finn and Rose got captured, and he's like, "Oh, we're screwed."
Oh no!
Then the door gets blown up on the bridge, and then Leia walks up, and she shoots him. Why not just explain what's going on to him? Why shoot him?
Subvert expectations. Comedy.
What?
I'm guessing comedy for this one.
Okay.
Comedy.
And then right after that, we're back in the throne room, and Snoke's line, "Darkness rises and light to meet it," which I explained before. And I guess that's like, that is Rian Johnson's interpretation of the Force, in that it creates people to serve both sides. I don't know. Go play KOTOR 2. It's better, and it deals with like the Force as a malicious thing because it keeps creating Jedi and Sith to kill each other for some reason.
Oh.
So then you wind up with someone trying to kill the Force. It's really cool.
Conspiracy theory.
Right. Then Poe wakes up. They're on the transports flying to Crate and Barrel?
Salt planet.
Crate. There's no barrel attached to it. And then Leia explains Holdo didn't want to seem like a hero. She stayed back on the ship to lead the enemy away, which seems like a heroic move.
She decided to be a hero.
She's just an incompetent leader. She sucks. Why was she promoted? I don't know. There's my note about Evil Droid and BB-8. So they're taken. Finn and Rose are taken to the hangar bay to be executed. Okay. I'm confused. Why?
Make a spectacle.
All
Right.
right. I guess.
Don't shoot him. Make it hurt or whatever.
So they're brought into the hangar bay to be executed, and then the revelation that the thief betrayed them right after they got caught. He was like, run a decloaking scan for the enemy transports. If a decloaking scan is a thing, why don't you always run that scan? Wouldn't that just be practical?
Cloaking device.
That would be very practical.
Why not? I have questions.
No ship that size could have a cloaking device.
Yes, Empire Strikes Back. I don't know. And how did the thief know that they were about to go on cloaked transports to the planet?
Probably heard it from the transmission from Poe and Finn, maybe.
Poe was didn't know about that plan.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm confused.
It's a mystery.
Charlie Brown.
We're back in the throne room. Snoke is being all Andy Serkis-like. Skywalker was wise to give up the Jedi, or like kill the Jedi off. Which I don't know. It's a weird line. Like, and then Snoke is like, I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna make you tell me where Luke is, so then I can go kill him, destroy the Jedi. But that goes against the implication that light will always rise to meet the darkness, because at that point there would be no light to counteract him being dark.
Well,
So,
I don't think he cares. He just wants to win.
but he can't win. His own reasoning would seem to indicate that he knows he can't win.
He's gonna try. Well, I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm confused, Curtis.
Snoke Luke fight would have been neat.
Yeah.
How neat is that? That's pretty neat. Someone will get that. And then we have another bit of slapstick where Rey tries to get the lightsaber and then Snoke flakes it around and hits her in the back of the head with it. I'm like, okay.
Comedy.
Comedy. And then he's like, all right, I know what I need to know. Kylo Ren, killer. Like, become the Sith Lord you were always meant to be. And then very convenient wording on Snoke's part that allows Kylo to kill him.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, holy plot convenience, Batman. Oh, my note here is that, like, he was a powerful enemy beaten by wordplay. Could that be a reference to Gollum? He was beaten through riddles. Interesting. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but it was something that came to me when I was like, this is Andy Serkis, and he's being beaten by words. For the throne room fight scene itself, I would direct you towards a video by the YouTube channel Shadiversity. He breaks down the fight in like proper fighting context. He knows a lot about historical sword fighting, so it's just like he tears it apart because it's terrible in terms of actual fighting styles.
I think it was brought up on an episode of Corridor Crew, like good and bad CGI moments or something, or no, stunt. They were doing they had stuntmen react with
like
the Corridor Crew.
Yeah, even
And
through
they talked about that.
like a stunt coordination, it's kind of blah.
Because they do a lot of the jump and like,
Yeah. Flail your weapons so it takes 5 seconds for you to get to your mark.
yeah.
And then there's literally a bit where they have to paint out through CGI one of the dude's knives because he would have killed Rey.
Yep, I remembered watching for that part. I was like, so when does it disappear? Right there.
Right there. You can see it. It's right there. It happens like they disappear at mid stab because she'd be dead. It's almost like it was poorly thought out. I don't know. So then Ben like falls back to the darkness because he was sort of having a light, like he was coming back, and then he falls back to the darkness. Which once again, consistency through Rian Johnson's interpretation. It's like there has to be a darkness to balance out all this light now, which is Rey and Luke. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's through lines here. It's interesting. That's unimportant entirely. Holdo was on the ship. They don't have autopilot, or they couldn't get a droid to pilot the ship.
Right.
Or, I don't know, the old rock on the gas pedal trick. Like, for real, you couldn't just like, all right, let's put this thing on the button that goes accelerate and we'll go.
You'd think.
It just seems awfully convenient that she would then be able to go and blow up the whole First Order fleet. I don't know.
I go back to Charles's comment about creating characters that just disappear.
Just disappear and die. Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot.
I think when I saw the bit where her ship goes through hyperspace and blows all the other stuff up, it's just like dead silent. And people were laughing in the theater when I saw
Really?
it. They're like, ah! Like, what is this?
It is ridiculous. It the kuram nashme. This is ridiculous. So that happens. She blows it up, and then we're back in the hangar bay. Everything blew up. Finn and Rose are like, everyone else apparently around them died, but they're perfectly fine. And then Phasma's 80 feet away for no reason because she was standing right there. After she was like, let's make it slow and painful. That way they can be rescued by this Holdo person. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So Finn and Phasma have a sword fight.
Let's fight with melee weapons, even though
Yeah.
she was holding a blaster, and she pulls out a blaster 5 seconds later to shoot
Yeah.
at Rose.
Kind of
Just shoot him. I don't get it. I don't understand. We're back in the throne room. Kylo wakes up, and Hux is there. Hux is the whipping boy. He gets choked some more. It's just like, man, well, like I don't get it. I don't get it. It's just weird. I think Rian Johnson just didn't like Hux.
Yeah, must not have.
So then we're down on Crate. Obvious Hoth reference is obvious.
Maybe he just didn't like his character from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
He was in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows?
I mean, he played one of the Weasley. I think he's the eldest Weasley brother.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know. I really
Bill.
don't.
Bill Weasley.
I have no clue.
The one who marries Fleur.
Weird.
Okay. Once again, I'll take your word for it. You have some salty exposition, literally. You're like, it's salt. They literally say that. It's a line.
Yeah.
Okay. Kylo Ren said, bring all of our forces down to the planet, which amounted to 15 AT-ATs, one cannon thing, and a dozen TIE fighters.
A couple troopers, too. But they don't do much.
You don't really see them.
Yeah.
And then they're fighting, and they have their rusty speeders. Curtis is not amused by the rusty speeders.
No, that whole thing was...
They just got
Slow down.
destroyed so quickly.
Yeah.
They didn't do a whole lot.
The TIE fighters are held off by Happy-Go-Lucky Rey.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
She somehow got back aboard the Millennium Falcon. Like, they have the
Didn't she
line,
steal
yeah, she took Snoke's personal escape ship. But this all happened within the span of like 5 minutes. Chewie flew off back into hyperspace.
Yeah, there's some unexplained something, transportation going on.
more Huck's incompetence because he's like, all fighters follow that ship. Instead of, I don't know, like half, 3/4.
You're right.
Save 2 for yourself. I don't know. You have your obvious asteroid chase and Death Star 2 chase reference when they're flying through the red caves. Just strange with a movie that seems to not want to be Star Wars to have something like, it's so on the nose and it doesn't even subvert. It just does what both the asteroid and the Death Star did before. I don't know. It's weird. So now Poe is like, no, we can't stop it. Let's all evacuate. Let's pull back. We're not going to be able to stop the battering thing. And then Finn's like, no, I can do it. And then Rose Tico comes in at 80 miles an hour. And they both survived that 80-mile-an-hour crash.
Not only
How did
that-
she catch up with him?
Okay, that's one thing. But not only did they both survive, somehow Finn was able to drag her all the way back.
There was
A couple-
like, if you look at the scene, there's like a small cave opening next to them.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought he like literally dragged her back across that entire.
But you bring up an excellent point
area.
because they're right in front of the First Order and half of their 15 AT-ATs,
They're
they
right
should just
there.
be shot. Yes, like what they do with Luke 5 minutes later. I don't know. It's weird. It's strange. It seems awfully convenient. So yeah, Finn was about to have a nice like self-sacrifice moment, but nope. Gotta crash into
Subvert.
him. Yep, subvert.
Expectations.
Why would the heroes be able to pull something off and be competent in completing their mission in any way? See, that's the confusing thing for me, because the end of the movie has the line like, no, the rebellion's reborn today, we'll relight the spark. It's like they're in a worse spot at the end of the movie than they were 5 minutes earlier in the movie when they asked everyone for help. Or 2.5 hours earlier when the movie started, when they had ships.
Is this supposed to be like another like, hey, this movie is almost like Empire because it ended a lot worse
But no,
than it
but
started.
the ending is specifically like trying not to be Empire because they're all happy, even though there's
Okay.
20 guys jammed in the Millennium Falcon, and that's the entirety of the rebellion at that point, resistance, whatever. But Rian Johnson could not have this movie end on a sour note because then it would have been Empire again, and you can't have that. It's weird. So yeah, that happens. They blow up the big door.
Luke shows up.
Luke shows up. Doesn't tell them anything about a plan, but Poe infers a plan, based on his lack of
creating a
dialogue.
distraction.
Yeah. Like all it requires
crystal
is
critters go.
one line from Mark Hamill, which is just like, "Go, I'll buy you some time." He says that, and I'm all in. It makes sense. But they said earlier there's no other way out of here other than the big door, which is stupid. Why would you build a secret base with only one entrance? You'd want an escape route. What do I know?
Luckily, there are some ice foxes and no things.
Crystal foxes. The distress call was received. There was no response, and then Luke shows up. Oh look, subversion. That's literally what I wrote. I didn't even like commentate what happens next. It's like it's subversive, and that was something that's always bugged me. He has the blue lightsaber, and I think there was an interview with Rian Johnson was like, well, he wanted Kylo to see him as he was. Kylo or Ben Solo would have never known Luke to have had that lightsaber ever.
Right. That is weird. Should have had his green lightsaber.
Should have had his green lightsaber. This is something I've been complaining about since day one, Curtis, and it's never made sense to me.
It is weird. Oh well.
Didn't they also say that Kylo Ren would have been so full of rage he wouldn't have cared?
That was said at some point, but
And another thing that I
don't know.
noticed that I wasn't quite sure if it was just like the color used for Luke's outfit, but if you look at his, or maybe this was intentional due to Luke not actually being there. If you look at Luke's feet, they always look blurry.
Yeah. No, that's just like the green screen they're on, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because there's a reverse shot with him and Kylo talking to each other. And there's a full shot of Kylo Ren, and he's standing in like a spot that Luke stands in 5 seconds later, and it looks just as strange. I know what you're talking about.
So I didn't know if it was like supposed to be this other little hint that he's not actually there.
Well, they specifically don't let Luke make footprints, which is supposed to indicate that. And there's the blue lightsaber, which indicates that. And there's, I don't know, there's a bunch of like little things that a bunch of people proclaim as like, oh wow, look at this movie, it's so clever. But then there's also scenes where Kylo Ren doesn't make any footprints because they're not actually paying that much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
They tried, but they failed. You tried and failed. Take that. So yeah, then I have notes about Luke's plan. Hux is once again the whipping boy. It's like, take me down there. And it's like, no, we shouldn't do that. Right. And the pilot's like, yes, sir. It's like, it's...
Right away, sir.
Yeah, pretty much.
They fight, not fight, whatever.
Yeah, that happens. Poe's like, will be the spark to light the fire that will bring the First Order down. I'm like, how? That's what you spent the last 2 hours trying to do and failed because you just sent out a distress call and everyone was like, yeah, no, fuck you.
Kinda.
And then they just have a million allies at the end of Rise of Skywalker. I know.
Just had to have Lando.
Lando was all.
Hey there.
But if Lando shows up for them anyways, should they have just sent one call to Lando and he would have been like, give me 5 minutes, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe he was busy. Maybe he was partying on that.
He was partying on that planet that with those parties that happen once every 50 years or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe he was at a different planet at a different party.
So yeah, Finn's like, we got to go help Luke, and Poe's like, no, we'll save the rebellion. And I think that's the payoff for Poe's lesson to be a leader, to not fight. So Luke and Kylo fight. Not really, but yeah. He's like, Luke's like, the rebellion's reborn today. All this other stuff. I'm like, how would he know that the rebellion is reborn today? He didn't tell them to get out. He didn't actually get in, so he wouldn't know that they could escape. I don't know. It's weird.
The Force.
Huh? I will not be the last Jedi, which, according to Rian Johnson's logic, makes sense. There will always be Jedi to rise to meet Sith unless you destroy both groups simultaneously. So, all right. Then Luke dies because otherwise he'd be alive. We can't have that.
There's a lot of force exertion going on there. Project himself across the galaxy.
Okay.
Midi-chlorians were getting worn out.
The powerhouse of the Force cell was getting tired.
Yep.
The rebellion is now 20 dudes, as we said. Just like, they're stuffed into the Millennium Falcon. We're ready to go, guys. Oh boy. The hopeful and joyful tone of their flying off. But then that's not the ending, because then you're back on Canto Bight.
Little kid.
The kid, and they're
So this comes to the final thing that Charles...
Final Charles.
What he said. What is with the young boy right at the end of the movie, looking off into the stars? Was his character supposed to continue on into the next film, or is he going to be the subject of another trilogy?
I don't think Rian Johnson knew. It might connect to Rey also being no one, that like these people can crop up anywhere.
Right? Yeah, I think that is the idea.
The idea of Rey being no one could be interesting. It's just that Rian Johnson doesn't do anything with it. It doesn't change Rey in any way. She learns about it and then she's like, okay, now I'm going to go shoot TIE fighters.
Right?
Like, have that change her. Then she'd have, like, a character and grow. God forbid that happens. I don't know. But that's pretty
Then
much
it was retconned.
Oh, right. That's a whole different discussion. It shouldn't be The Rise of Skywalker. It should be the retcon of Last Jedi.
Yeah. It's a lot.
So that was like 3.5 hours, I'm sure.
It's a bunch.
It was a lot. Curtis, your final thoughts of Star Wars The Last Jedi, having many, many questions asked and few of them answered.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised that Disney was just like, okay, sure, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Especially at that point, Rian Johnson had made like one kind of culty film, or like known in cult circles, what I would consider a cult circle.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave the biggest franchise at that point. Maybe the MCU had surpassed it at that point. I don't know. They're comparable.
Yeah.
One of the biggest franchises in the world to a cult classic film guy who'd had like one thing that people knew him by.
Yep.
It's weird. Ryan?
All right.
Subverting expectations.
Okay, but you can do that as much as you want. That doesn't make it good. It just means you've done a bunch of random crap that people didn't exactly expect you to do.
Watch this video, How to Do a Plot Twist. Dash Knives Out by the YouTube channel.
He brings it back
Closer look.
around, people.
I mean, they talk about the exact same thing and how Rian Johnson didn't do it very well in this movie, but did it better in movies where there were no established characters.
Right. And that comes down to Rian Johnson wanting to make a movie the way he wanted to make it without really caring for the consequences in the world. This discussion was in part spurred on by Sam Witwer's comments, which was he essentially said Rian Johnson didn't do his Star Wars homework. And I don't think that that's correct. I think that Rian Johnson knew the universe, at least to some degree. He just didn't care. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. Thanks for joining us on this ridiculous thing. I don't know why we did this or how, but we did.
Like and subscribe.
Please. Por favor.
And send us a comment or two.
Or not. It's up to you.
Yeah.
I rhymed.
Bye.
It's all ogre now.
Donkey.
Monkey. Shrek.
Shrek is love.
Shrek is life.